Welcome to the Design Thinker podcast, where we explore the theory and practice of design. Hosted by me, Dani, and
me, Peter.
Good morning, Peter. How are you?
I'm great, thanks, Dani. How are you?
I am well, excited for today's conversation.
Me too, as always.
What are we talking about today?
Today, Dani, clear my throat. It's a bit of a longer introduction than usual. Today, right now, as we're recording this, we are in the middle of a wave of generative AI. I guess adoption is what you'd call it. The AI tools that are available to us in the middle of 2025 are quite incredible and mind-blowing. And as the Design Thinker podcast and as human-centered designers, one of the questions that's continually passing through our minds and in conversation between you and I is how might we take those AI tools and use them mindfully, thoughtfully, and in a human-centered way so that we continue to design and create a world that is human-centered rather than AI-centered. And we often think about it in terms of experiences. And today we're going to talk about an experience that almost everyone listening to this will have gone through themselves, and that's we could call it recruitment from our own point of view, being recruited into a role in an organization. But from an organization's point of view, it's often called talent acquisition. So we're going to talk about how the experience of talent acquisition and recruitment might change for better or for worse, and how we might shape it as design thinkers in this new world of AI. I told you it was a long introduction, didn't I?
I am totally looking forward to getting into this because I've been doing quite a bit of work in terms of understanding behavioral science and how does that play into AI, and then how do those things play into creating better experiences for humans.
Hmm.
And we have a guest today
Yeah.
to help us unpack this. Tim, do you want to introduce yourself to our audience?
Yeah, kia ora, everybody. A really unique thing about being in New Zealand is the connection back to our ancestral past. If it's okay, I'll probably split this up. I'll make sure that I translate it. But so the first part is basically three really simple thank yous. Thank you to our ancestors for giving us this wealth of knowledge and experience and wisdom to be able to korero, to talk openly. And thank you for the ground that we're speaking from. And thank you very much for connection here. There's probably another part to that is an introduction of myself. So if you're okay, so tēnā koutou katoa, te mauna, ko mauna tautari te mauna, te waikaru te awa, ko tainoi te waka, ko parawera ahau. No Ngāti Rau, kaua te iwi ki tohi te whānau, ko Timoti ahau. So what I've said there is my people, Ngāti Rau kaua, came over on Tainui. That was the name of our waka, of our boat. And they settled in the Waikato region, which is just north or just south of Auckland as a reference point for those global listeners. Mauna Tautari is our Mauna, is the mountain. And my last name was Poihi, only but 2 generations ago. And now it is Bush, but we're thinking about reverting that. Timothy is Timothy, but that name is purely reserved for my mum when I'm being told off. So Tim is absolutely fine to call me. So yeah, that's just a little bit about me. And I'll probably explain maybe why the pepeha, or why introducing yourself like that, is just so incredibly important.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, kia ora, Tim, and welcome to the podcast. Yeah, like we said, we can't wait to get into this topic. And yeah, as listeners, and as you will know, Tim, listeners know, we like to start to define things like what is it we're talking about, and yeah, usually we have a nice short sentence to get into, but this, yeah, maybe we'll start a bit more openly. Maybe tell us a bit more about your background. So you do work talent acquisition in recruitment, and maybe tell us what you're seeing in terms of, or what you've seen and what you're starting to see in terms of this recruitment or talent acquisition experience as we frame it.
Yeah. Look, my background first. First things first, I wouldn't say that there are people out there in the ether that are far more experienced from a recruitment perspective. I very much feel as though I'm relatively new to the party in this one. I'm with about 10 years under my belt. But what I have experienced is we've all applied for jobs, right? And I think whenever is my early 20s or even younger than that, when I've applied for the job, there's always been one thing in the back of my mind of going, will they get back to me? Do they actually know who I am? Do they care about who I am? And look, I think there has been this power struggle between where does the responsibility lie, or who has the power? Is it the company or is it the person? Is it the candidate? Is it the job seeker? And I think what we saw in 2022, towards the late stages of that year, is unemployment at historical low levels. It's set, I read there's an article yesterday that we're heading towards 5.3%, which is a 9-year high. But 2022 in Wellington, for I think it was 2 quarters back to back, was sub 3%, so 2.8%. And why that is so significant is 3% is the threshold to technically say there is no unemployment.
Mm.
Everybody is in a job. And isn't that, for me, that's a bonkers thing. So the power shift went onto the job seeker. And now that we've seen a 2% shift in the opposite direction, companies now, I think organizations are saying the power sits with us again. This is where it should always sit. I'm a bit of an advocate for the job seeker, for the candidate, where I don't think that's quite the right way to go about it. So I know I've jumped around a few things and dived into some topics, but getting back to me, I've got about 10 years under my belt, both from an agency and in-house perspective. And there are some good things that are happening at the moment, some really good things. But I think as a whole, we're missing the mark. As a whole, yeah.
Okay.
So when we say we, do you mean the profession?
I say the profession. And I'll got a couple. Yeah, there's one example that springs to mind straight away is I read something on LinkedIn the other day that a company had 100 applicants for, I believe it was a receptionist position. And a reception position, like that shouldn't be frowned upon. That's literally a gateway. Is it your first point as a customer? And they received 100 applicants. They were like, oh, I don't know what to do. And so they just looked at the first 20 and discarded the rest. And so when you hear and feel stories like that, you're like, what about the 80?
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, who's the advocate for those 80? There could be some terrific people in there that
Mm.
might be not necessarily a no, they might be a no now, but they could be a yes
Mm.
in a month's time or a year's time.
Yeah.
And so I think there's this real friction. So when you say who is we,
Mm.
I think it's the profession as a whole.
Mm.
Mm.
Yeah, but I'm not, that's not just aimed at recruiters.
Yeah.
That is at maybe your organization doesn't have an internal recruitment team. Maybe you outsource it to a recruitment agency. It could be you have an HR generalist and look after it. It could be just a hiring manager led process. Whoever is that person that is leading the recruitment of that position,
Mm.
that's what I'm saying from a we perspective.
The power balance you talk about is really interesting because I totally remember in 2022 when it was such a different market and organizations were having to do all kinds of acrobatics
Hmm.
to acquire
Mm.
talent, and now the power balance has shifted. And what I'm trying to understand is, so these shifts are going to happen, right? We exist in an economic cycle and
Hmm.
these shifts happen. I don't understand why is this profession so prone to acting in different ways because of this shift?
What a question that is. Like, why is there this power shift? I think, goodness, you've stumped me with this. Where my mind goes is that I think there's a couple of things, probably around this notion of AI really disrupting the profession, and we'll no doubt like really explore this soon.
Mm.
There is this drive to try and automate everything.
Mm.
Mm.
And then lastly is wrong people in these roles. And this is where I think there is a requirement to, when you have somebody who just gets it, like they just know that picking up this thing, picking up the phone and calling somebody is the right thing to do, is I think that's typically innate within somebody. I had a very good mentor. I didn't know it at the time what he was really talking about, but his name's Matthew Templar. and he's an absolutely wonderful recruiter and just generally just a terrific person. But when I first started I was completely changing careers, and I started in a recruitment agency. He always said, pick up the phone, pick up the phone. Oh, but I don't know about this. Hey, Tim, pick up the phone. And what he was saying is, we work in a human business.
Mhm.
If we want to look at from a product perspective, our product is people. Like, and that's probably where I'll leave that, because I don't like to think of people as products, because that's definitely not how I think. But is what he was saying is, we're a human environment. Everything about us is people related,
Mm,
and you can't always read people from a piece of paper.
mm,
So pick up the phone, take them out for a coffee, go and see them, talk, connect with them. And I think that word connect is potentially the piece of the puzzle that is missing in recruitment land at the minute. So I don't know if that answers, or maybe I've gone off on a massive tangent here, Danny.
As listeners will know, we like our tangents. We go off on tangents. So that's really insightful there, Tim. And I think maybe my take on Danny's question, which was pretty big one, pretty deep one early on, I have to say. I think it's a, in black and white terms, in spreadsheet terms, I think it's a supply and demand. I think that's where the power dynamics. However, just like you, Tim, I think thinking of people as products or numbers, etc. I think it is necessary sometimes, but it's not where I like to begin and end. People are people, not resources, not assets. We're all human beings. But I think that's perhaps where the power dynamic shift is, this pure and simple supply and demand. Coming back to, I'm just going to bring us back a little bit to the where we're anchoring and where we're talking, and the idea of talent acquisition or recruitment. What is this the beginning, almost the very beginnings of our, let's say, employee journey, or and it's a specific experience with that employee journey and employer journey actually, where because for the listener, what we're talking about is, let's say, Tim, from the moment an organization perhaps starts to think about a new role being required, or somebody in a role being
Mm.
needing to be replaced because they've been promoted or moved to another organization, and then all the way through to, let's say, I don't know, where do you think of it ending? Does that talent acquisition experience or process, does it finish on the first day in the first week? What do you think about that?
Yeah, there's two parts of that. There's recruitment,
Yeah.
and then there's talent acquisition. So
Okay.
recruitment sits in talent acquisition,
Okay.
but typically they are divorced of one another, as in the talent acquisition isn't a thing, whereas recruitment is a thing. Recruitment is a little bit more, it's reactionary. It's the hiring manager saying, hi, I need to recruit someone. And typically in maybe a larger organization, there'll be some sort of it's called like a authority to recruit, or a
Yep.
requisition to appoint, or something along those lines. And it's the hiring manager filling in a form, telling HR, hi, I'm over here. I'm after a BA or a receptionist or security
Hmm.
guard or whatever is the
Hmm.
role. So there's a metric that looks at that. So if we look at a recruitment metric, it's called time to fill. And time to fill goes from that point, and then you've got all these different stage gates throughout that. So there would be some sort of maybe an approval chain that it has to go through, maybe up to a budgetary holder or a chief executive or someone along those lines. And then once it is approved, then you're able to go out and recruit. And then you might have a stage around creation of that within your applicant tracking system, your ATS. It might be you've gone out to market on date X, it closes on date Y. If you run a very methodical, then there is interviews, and then there is background checks, whatever those might look like, Ministry of Justice references, etc., psychometric if you're that way inclined, and so on. And then there is usually offer given, offer received back, marked as hired, and there. So that time frame, so from hi, I need somebody, through to contract back, marked as hired in the system, is time to fill. But at every one of those stage gates, you've got a potential bottleneck. And that bottleneck can quite often cause friction, either internally or internal to internal. So if you, just off the top of my head, you went out to markets on Monday and your advert's open for 2 weeks, or maybe longer, let's say a month, and you applied on day one, you might not hear back for a month. That's a long time not to hear anything. And so that's a bottleneck, that's friction. So let's say you're lucky enough to get given a phone call, because statistically that isn't happening at the moment. I
Mhm.
mean, as a generalization, but again, from what I am seeing and feeling from the market, and then go, oh, hi, I'm so and so from company XYZ. Hey, thanks for applying. Oh, don't worry about that. Yeah, I applied 4 weeks ago. I'm out. I've already got another job. Oh,
Yeah,
okay. Well, all the best.
yeah, yeah.
We are doing ourselves a disservice because of the delay that we take.
Mm.
And that's a big one.
And it's and just bringing it back to the kind of power dynamics and the shift in that. It sounds as though, from your experience, what you're saying is because of this supply and demand shift in New Zealand where we are now, then perhaps where there might be an opportunity for an organisation to reach out to people who've applied, then there's even less of an incentive to for organisations to do that at the moment than there might have been previously.
Yeah, I often reflect on this
Yeah.
on this part. I think it's because we've emphasized this notion around the process,
Mm.
running a really good and robust process. We know, as I did go to university, not to do HR, but there were a few site courses in there, that people are non-linear.
Hmm.
People are completely dynamic. And just by default, everybody is, maybe this is a big statement here, but everybody is neurodiverse in our own unique way. How we perceive backgrounds and what that looks and feels like, our level of expectations around what we require and demand out of things. We've all had good days and bad days, and but that's different. It feels different because it makes us unique. And I think when we have this, I think this, yes, trust around this power dynamic, I just wonder if we've dehumanized the profession so we can fit it in everybody into a box, so we can then automate that process and to
Mm.
make life easier for ourselves.
Mm.
Here's the amazing thing though. AI is fantastic. I am so far on board with the AI, it's unbelievable. I don't know if you want me to crack into this part or you want to save
Yeah,
it and
keep
No,
going.
you
but
go
This
for
is
it,
hopefully
please.
that's
awesome.
answered the whole. To answer the question, I think is
Yeah,
there has been emphasis put on the process, not the experience.
yeah, yeah, yep. Nice.
That's I that's I think is the fundamental issue.
Yeah.
And yeah,
That yes, that really strikes a chord to me. I think it really reminds me of, and I've mentioned it in a couple of episodes, when you apply kind of factory thinking to a service or an office, let's call it, then you fail to the demands of a factory system. Let's say it's making a car, or what color is the car, what kind of car and what color, versus the demands of any service organization, whether you're a recruiting organization or a contact center or a retail store, whatever it is, the unique demand is infinitely variable. The unique demand that you should be designing your system to meet because it involves a human being. And just like you're saying, Tim, every person is unique and their uniqueness will change from day to day. So therefore we should do our best to avoid creating and designing systems, processes that ignore that fact. Yeah.
yeah. Why can't we actually design a process with the hiring manager, so the recruiter? There's something called the job brief.
Yeah.
So that's when a hiring manager goes, "Hi, I need to recruit."
Yeah.
That's when a good recruiter will just instinctively know, oh,
Yeah.
I need to go and have a chat with because I need to understand that more. Why not in that moment, literally co-design the process then?
Yeah.
I don't see why we couldn't do that.
And just to
But
unpack that,
mm,
so what do you mean? Because I love that idea, but just to explain that a little bit further. So what you're saying is in that moment with the hiring manager and recruiter going, okay, so now that I understand what you're looking for, I'll create a job ad, I'll create a short list, I'll send that to you, we'll have a meeting. So going through how, if you're the hiring manager, Tim, and I'm the recruiter, just
mhm.
laying out those steps of what we're going to do together in that moment so that it works for
Yeah,
that recruit hiring manager.
yeah, and not just for that hiring manager, but for that recruitment. So if we look at it
Yes.
as in that moment,
Mm.
And this is where data can play and help to really inform our decisions, right? Is that we can say, hey, Dani, if to reverse it here, you're the hiring
Yeah.
manager, I am the recruiter, and we start to corridor around to talk around what this job can look and feel like, right? So I have a deeper appreciation of what it is. Like we can go, do you want to have more of a waterfall sort of style where it's very methodical, where we don't do we put the advert up and we don't do anything until the advert comes down, and then we get all of
Mm.
the candidates and we go through either collectively or I do the heavy lifting to provide you with a long list. Let's say if it's 100 candidates, I'll get it down to the top 20. You come back to me with your short list, whatever that's what I'm talking about. Or do we go more agilely? And I'm saying agilely because I don't want to use that word because I know that it has stigma around it.
We
Do we
call
go,
it little agile.
a little agile? Okay, well, I haven't heard that one. I'm going to use that as little agile is to go, look, I'm going to start to contact candidates as and when they apply. Why can't we do that? We're still being fair to the process. We're still being fair to the experience that you can get with just doing that one thing. But if we come back to the job brief, is going, okay, what's needed? Do you think we're going to need to headhunt? We went out for this position 6 months ago. In fact, over the last year, we've gone out 3 times. And the 3 times we've had a really stock standard. And you know what? We haven't got quite the cut through that we want. So let's co-write the advert. What does that look like?
Mm.
Okay, we might need some headhunting here. Okay, do I, the recruiter, have the capacity or capability or ability to even go off and headhunt? No, but we know that we're going to need it. Okay, let's maybe partner with an agency, a recruitment agency for that, only to do access into their talent pool,
Mm.
right? We don't want you to advertise. We don't want you to do this. We want you to give us your best 3 by this date. So we're literally co-designing that recruitment
Mm.
in
Mm.
the moment. Hey, last time we actually had from that person a year ago, yeah, we actually had a little bit of a fallout. There was a lot of friction. They weren't the people person. Okay, cool. Would you like to add in psychometric testing to test around personality traits?
Mm.
Yeah,
Mm.
cool. Okay, let's do that. So what I'm saying is not mandate anything, but in that moment co-design the process
Mm.
around
Mm.
what that recruitment will look like. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I love it. It's yeah, I love that idea. I love that idea of adapting to circumstances and learning from previous experience, previous wins and fails, and really creating that kind of bespoke process and experience to deliver the best outcomes for the organization, the recruiting manager, the successful candidate. And I think going back to something you said earlier, from our own experiences of applying for jobs, I'm sure also the best experience we can for the unsuccessful candidates, like that, because they,
Oh, yes. Like Peter, you've really had a nerve on that one in a
oh
good
yeah,
way.
okay,
Yeah. Unsuccessful candidates.
yeah, yeah,
I think that this is the one metric above all
hmm,
that almost every recruiter should be looking at, especially in-house recruiters
yeah,
Mm.
or in-house HR teams.
yeah,
Where I currently work, this is the one that we obsess over. We don't obsess
ah,
over many, but this is the one that we really go about it. And in our system, it's called the notification rate. What this is, the percentage rate of declined candidates that we get back to. And we're at 99% because this is everything for us. And if you look at it just let's go down and look at it from a branding perspective. So, from a branding perspective, what you have is imagine the impact on ghosting has to somebody's psyche. Danny, from when we met a number of weeks ago, like this was the crux of what I was having a chat about was when you ghost somebody, it affects everything, their mental health and well-being, because it leaves basically what you're saying is we're going to leave you in the lurch. The psychological damage that you have when you ghost people is phenomenal in a bad way. It's not a
Mm.
good thing, you know. What we're saying as an organization, hey, thanks so much. Thank you so much for applying in, but also we're not going to give you any updates.
hmm,
We're going to just leave you in the lurch. Ghosting, unfortunately, is, yeah, it's rife. And if I can use an example here is a really good friend of mine. She got made redundant in early January 24 and picked up a job in late September 2024. So let's say a solid 8 months of
Mm.
unemployed. But she rang me after the first month and goes, Tim, help. What do I do? And I actually said, what do you want? And she said, I just want somebody to want me. And I was like, are you quoting the movie The Breakup with Jennifer Aniston and Vince Vaughn right now? I just want you to want to do the dishes. I just thought that, yeah, like we had a bit of a laugh about that. You got to make light of these situations sometimes. And what she did was she created an Excel spreadsheet of what was the job, where was the job, what stage did she get through, was there a phone number or an email to call on that advert, was it through a recruitment agency? Has she heard back? And here is the percentage. And now, no doubt, we all have friends like that. Here's the percentage that was under the column of has she heard back? So
Mm.
essentially, has she been ghosted? Have a wild guess, Peter. Like, what have you got? Has she heard
Oh,
back from organizations about being unsuccessful?
I would go, I'll go to one extreme is 0%. She didn't hear back from anybody.
You're not actually that far off. 7%.
Seven. Yeah.
7%. So if we put that in perspective now, that because she has this data bank, this database, this
Mm.
data, like really rich data around, and for her, it was about feeling connected to something. So if
Hmm.
an organization comes out and goes in Māori language, let's say,
Mm.
and so for the
Hmm.
listeners, the whānau na tanga, but whānau, the first part of it is family. It's the one team, it's the familyness. And or if it's manaakitanga, that is about being kind, being caring,
Hmm.
that kinship, if we're
Yeah.
Mm.
talking about that. So if your values are that, but at the same time you're going, hey, yeah, we're going to leave you in the lurch.
Yeah.
Automatically, there you have this huge friction between the two things around what you're putting out, what you're projecting out to the market,
Mm.
draw people in, and then just discrediting them. Unfortunately, that piece there, it just spirals into a really negative situation.
Mm.
According to our ATS, which goes across Australasia, according to their overall stats, 90% is what you should be aiming for of notifying. For me, it's 100%
Mm.
you should be notifying. In fact, I heard one really cool story from a recruiter that I know that the candidate was so thankful that he declined him, like that he got a decline in a
Mm.
timely manner with some really tangible feedback. It was very honest, it was very authentic, that he took him out for a pie for lunch to say thank you. The
Yeah.
declined candidate took the recruiter out for a pie.
Yeah.
How New
I
Zealandy is that? How
Yeah.
That
Kiwi is
is very
that?
New Zealand. But I also think that speaks to something very human, right? This whole ghosting concept, particularly when you're in the job market, and particularly if you're in the job market because you've lost your job, that is the most vulnerable situation, well, one
Yeah.
of the most vulnerable situations a human can be in. And so you're already vulnerable, and also, our brains really struggle with uncertainty. Our brains like to have
Hmm.
closure. And there's been many studies that show that the worst part of a medical diagnosis is not knowing. And
Yeah.
people have said once they've been diagnosed with whatever horrible disease it is, and they'll say, at least now I know what it is and I can do something about it. And I think the same translates to, and our brains don't distinct between medical diagnoses and job searches. Our brains respond in very similar ways, so that not getting that closure
Mm.
Mm.
is worse than just saying, I'm really sorry, you did a really good job through the process, you weren't the successful candidate. Hearing that it gives you closure, it helps you move on, and that bad news is better than not hearing anything.
Love
Completely
it.
agree.
I was hoping you would give us a sprinkle of our listeners, like a little sprinkling of neuroscience and kind of explanation for why we're, because when you're talking about this, Tim, I've experienced it. I'm sure everybody listening has experienced the ghosting, and our rational brain goes, well, I'm one of a few hundred candidates potentially. They're busy people. The process obviously doesn't accommodate for just sending me an email to say I'm not going on to the next stage, and instead I have to wonder, have they got it? Or, yeah, first of all, have they got it? Maybe I should check that. Or is it me?
Yeah.
Is it them? And often with myself, it ends up, well, what I'm going to do is think twice about applying to that organization next time round if this is the way I'm going to be not treated or uncared for. Yeah.
Yeah, if we look at this from a statistical perspective, if you have a good experience, you're going to tell circa
Yeah.
4 people.
Yeah. Yeah.
If you have a bad experience,
Mm.
you tell this, these are in person, right? These are in
Hmm.
person, is you'll tell 20 if you've had a bad experience.
Yeah.
Now, what I think is if it's a trend if something becomes three, right? I know
Hmm.
for a fact that in Wellington, I won't go to a couple of organizations
Mm.
because there have been like more than one person on one occasion say the same thing.
Mm.
Mm.
Yeah.
And and so I personally won't go there because that's a trend. So
Yeah.
if we think about probably right at the start of the podcast
Yeah.
was around that unemployment.
Yeah.
As
Mm.
soon, and to your point, Danny, is the market moves in waves. It always has, it always will. But when it starts to go to more a candidate-centric market, when
Mm.
unemployment will come down, what do you think? Like, people are going to have options,
Yeah.
Mm.
and people will remember that time that you treated them poorly. You
Mm.
didn't get back to them. You didn't give them that closure. You let them in the lurch.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, what's going to happen at that time is there's going to be a significant increase in cost, and your cost to hire will
Mm.
go through the roof.
Mm.
And that's a real shame. Yeah,
That is a real shame. And there's
that's a
another
real shame.
side to this that I never hear that's being talked about, right? Which is this. So there are now companies I won't do business with because I have heard stories about what their recruitment process is like. And so when I'm looking to do business with them and I go on their website and I see their values and I see these things and then I
Yeah,
hear these stories
yeah.
about friends and family that have applied at these companies and they've got this experience, and then I start to question, this now sounds like
Mm.
marketing and not really their values, or this sounds like this is how they want to work, but there's this significant misalignment with what I'm hearing real people's experiences are versus what they're trying to sell me.
100%. But if I can shift it from a bit of a doom and gloom conversation into maybe
Yeah.
one that's a little bit more upbeat,
Yeah. Yeah.
we are fortunate because this little thing called AI,
Oh, yes.
I say tongue in cheek little,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
is this AI thing
Yeah.
is just going to open up a world of opportunities
Mm.
for what it means to be a recruiter. I don't know if you're right, Peter, if I
Please, you know,
talk about
this,
this a little
Yeah.
bit more, like
go for it. Go for it, Tim.
this
We've
is
wound
this
you
is
up
the
and we
ex
want to unleash.
go my child.
Yeah.
This is I think is literally the best thing about AI. If you are someone who loves the process, this isn't known to be for you.
Hmm.
If you're somebody who is all about the experience,
Mm.
then this is going to be your best friend.
Mm.
Mm.
So I see a world, I can picture a world
Mm.
that the hiring manager goes, "Hi," fills in something, "I need to recruit." Let's say, let's just use a receptionist as an example. Receptionists are worth their absolute weight in gold, by the way. Is, "Hi, I need to recruit a receptionist." Right through to marking the, like all of those stages that I talked about before, and the signed offer coming back will be all to be able to be automated and done by a bot, done by AI. I see a world that would happen. Well, that's the futurist in me.
Hmm.
Yeah.
The realist in me says that you can't put a bot in front, like in charge of a human. So
Mm.
there will be a human who will be the master of this bot. I've actually started to create a bot to try and help me with this. His name's Ronaldo because I like Ronaldo because he wins and he can also do really awesome football kicks. But with Ronaldo, what he'll be able to do is heal like it's a person. What Ronaldo, oh my goodness, I'm going to have to catch myself saying that one, is Ronaldo will be able to read the requirements,
Hmm.
write an advert, send it back to the hiring manager, get it back. Hey, hiring manager, hey, Dani, are you okay if I go live? Yeah,
Hmm.
of course. Cool. Post it as candidates come through or whatever is the cadence. let's say is we'll leave it as a waterfall style. So let's say at the end of that 2 weeks, we'll be able to start to pair up or to rank. There's already ATSs that can do this, by the way, is scan the requirements of what you're looking for, scan the person's application and give them a matching. There's already stuff that can do this. Write an executive summary based off their, hey, I've shortlisted out the 100, I've shortlisted 5 for you to have a look at, hiring manager. Who would you like me to book in for an interview? Automate all of that done with really human-y type language because it will be written by a human, and then, oh, cool, you want to move forward with Peter for this role? Let me draft the contract. Does this contract look okay to you? Cool. Send out, get back, start onboarding. Or a bot will be able to do. And that's what I mean by automation as well. All of that kind of stuff. So the big question for me that is playing heavy on my mind at the moment is, what does that mean for the recruiter?
Yeah.
Human recruiter.
The human recruiter. Hashtag Ronaldo, you should listen into this podcast. But I think with that is our jobs will go more old school before even the likes of maybe even social media or whatever it may be. I think there's going to be some.
You might have to explain that life before social media.
Yeah, maybe a little bit more. So what I mean by social media is people are always on their phones, just head down, looking at their phones rather than getting their head up and looking at the beautiful world that is around them. Looking at the wonderful people and wonderful conversations that is not through a phone, through a device, through a screen, and have conversations with people. Now, if you've got, and sometimes I've talked about this with a number of people, and they go, yeah, but I'm averaging 100 applicants per job. I can't have 100 conversations. No, you can't. No, you can't. But you might be able to with 15, and you might be able to tell those 75 others or 85 others or however, whatever is the threshold of your short long list is, you might be able to get back to them really quickly and say, hey, thanks very much, but no, thank you because of X, Y, and Z. If we look at those, having a old school conversation with somebody, when you can hear that pitch and tone, that passion that come through in certain words and maybe drawn back in others, all of those nuances that you don't get on the paper or from submitting a one-way video interview, which is it's a thing as well. All of those nuances. I heard the godfather of AI talk about AI not having a wet brain. And I think there's probably another podcast on that one, to be fair, is we have a wet brain. And goodness me, I'm on a bit of a learning journey myself around understanding how emotions at the core of our brain impact our thoughts and process outward, just from a biological perspective. And then what does that mean for us in terms of how we use and how we speak to people? So, and how we engage with people. And if there is a heightened state around neurodiversity, and then how do we engage with people that identify in that way or whatever it may be. And I think that's a human thing that only at this point in time that I see, and also going forward, is a human can pick up. Is that emotional piece. And this is the crux of it, I think, out of it all, is hiring, both for the job seeker and the company, is a highly emotive activity. And when you put emotion into a process and emphasize the process, you don't get the experience.
Yeah.
So it's the experience that is my jam. That's what I'm all about. And the cool thing with all of this is it actually doesn't cost money. It could be maybe a text or a phone call, like on somebody's last day of work before they start with you on the Monday. Hey, we're really looking forward to seeing you. Hey, what does that look like? Hey, just to let you know, we've got actually a team meeting. We know you haven't started yet. Do you want to come to us? Do you want to come with us for breakfast? Something outside of the norm to create this experience. So when the person lands, and all of those little moments that matter, those need to be human-y. So on the whole, I think the role of the recruiter is, from an in-house perspective, I think we're going to see more of this notion. And I know that there's a number of teams out there at the moment that have the term people experience. I think recruiters will be transitioning through into that more PX space, whereby, not to put this into percentages, but I'm going to literally put this into percentages. Whereas like 30% you're a marketeer. You might be 30% of, I don't know, a sales rep. And you might be, what are we left over? 40%, maybe 20% administration and 20%, I don't know, haven't got to that far yet. But this is where my thought process is going at the moment.
Mm.
And yeah, I think there's going to be more cross OD with talent, talent with L&D, talent with typically an HR partnering. I think that piece, if we look at the HR disciplines, I think there is going to be far more integration with those because of the people experience component of it, that people are demanding more from their organizations. But I think it is very much now is recruitment is seen as a process that no one really wants to do. So you just go off and do that over there, and the
Yeah.
integration piece doesn't occur to the degree that it should.
Yeah.
But AI is going to be amazing for this. It's going to be
Yeah.
incredible for it. Yeah.
Yeah.
When you were describing the future of the recruitment process, matching and AI's ability to look at a CV, and we know this is happening today. What I start to think about, and you touched on this a little bit, is one of the things that humans can do really well is assess. We have a conversation and I get a sense for who you are. And this is the tricky thing about hiring because there's the resume version of Tim, and then there is the real life experience of Tim. Sometimes
Yeah.
those two things are different.
Yeah.
So so is there a risk that AI is going to be doing, because I feel like a lot of times AI does things very literally. And when we're talking about humans, we're not very literal. And you touched on this earlier. We're very
Yeah.
dynamic, very complex. So what is the risk there? Is there a risk there?
Huge risk, massive. Unfortunately, you see and hear it all the time.
Mm,
But there is significant risk if you don't have I've said the word master, but maybe not the right word, but like a human looking over it.
mm,
And when you put something on paper, it's able to be analyzed in a really analytical perspective. Does the keyword of what the hiring manager is looking for fit with the keywords that are on the CV or application? Yes or no?
Yeah.
And to what degree?
mm,
It's if a neurologist is applying to be a receptionist, but they don't have able to answer 50 calls a day on the phone and greet 150 people in person on their CV, they'll probably be declined, even though that they could probably easily do that job. But what the human element does is it needs to understand, hey, there's a neurologist that's applied for a receptionist job.
Mm.
Why?
mm.
Like, what's driven them? And during COVID times, that happened. I can remember like cardiologists, all these medical professionals that maybe people weren't able to go and see, physiotherapists, podiatrists, all these people that were applying for jobs that was well outside of maybe their specialization.
Or even transferable skills
So,
is where I also see an issue with this, is that sometimes
yeah.
there's lots of great data analysts that I know that have a very strong engineering background. And I've hired
Mm,
people into those kinds of roles, but that's because as you can look at their CV and make these assumptions. Surely if they can analyze enough data to figure out this engineering problem, they can run this analysis for me in this non-human
100%.
critical role.
Yeah.
And this is where I see that risk, is that is this going to really limit people from making career transition type things? And this is where I also see value in human intervention within the process.
Yeah. By the way, I'm definitely not advocating get rid of your recruitment team
Mm.
and just put bots in there. I'm not advocating for that whatsoever.
Mm.
I'm saying is that with the induction of AI, what it's going to allow the team to do is to level up and be more humany.
Mm,
Instead of moving people in and out of boxes and moving them through a process, yeah, that's part of it, but you don't focus on that. You focus
Yeah.
on the experience, you focus on the corridor, the conversation. And this is one of the things that I love about being a Kiwi and
Mm.
having a deep connection through my father's side
Mm.
to Te Ao Māori or
Uh-huh.
Māoridom. is what I said before in my pepeha is a way of introducing who I am and where I come from, is the pepeha serves to connect.
Mm.
Is to tell you something about me that brings us closer together. And prior to recording started, as we had that same conversation. So
Yeah.
I learned more about you, Peter, and more about you, Dani, and it was wonderful. I love that. And I'd like for that to continue. But
Mm.
that's the connection piece. And when you get that, you get far richer data around, oh, geez, actually, I've got a job that's coming up that I think Peter could do.
Yeah.
But I know you.
Yeah.
You're not just a name on a paper.
Yeah.
And I think we have to challenge that narrative that we've got around how many roles can we actually look after at any one time as a recruiter, both from an agency and a in-house perspective. What does
Yeah.
that look like? What does it feel like? How much tender love and care are we giving to people? But for our listeners, there's a beautiful word in Māori. It's called aroha. And aroha means love. And I think we need to show more aroha to candidates. But we
Yeah.
can do that. Again, we can decline them, but timely, really personable, and tell them why.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
can do that. That's still showing aroha.
Yeah. And I think what you're saying, Tim, is we can use the AI in its true sense, the augmented intelligence, I say, to help us do that, to coming back to our unsuccessful candidates, to help them feel that even a small amount of aroha during the process, even if it's being out of the process or the experience right at the beginning, AI can, and I'm sure there are tools that do it at the moment, but I think what you're saying is AI can make that even more human to come back to individuals and explain to them in a message or an email that they're not going further, but do this or do that or stay in touch or.
A colleague of mine, she's using AI in a really unique way, and it's actually around decline
Hmm.
candidates. She calls it delightful declines.
Oh yeah,
She
perfect,
uses
perfect.
AI to be able to help script
Yeah,
how to decline someone and find the right wording.
yeah,
So it doesn't take long because her and her team have got
yeah,
really key with those prompts. As we know, that's important for AI.
yeah,
So
yeah.
with those prompts, they quickly put it in. Here's the key skill sets. And by the way, it's within their ecosystem. They don't put it onto a general platform like ChatGPT or
Mm,
Plexity.ai or whatever it may
hmm.
be. It's done in-house, so probably on Copilot. But write the decline based off the skill set.
Mm,
Bang. 30 seconds later, there you go. And it's meaningful. And it is there because I think the intent behind using it in that way is for the right thing. It's got, I
mm.
really want to give Peter some good feedback here.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
can't find the right words. Bang, into Copilot, and then submit that into the email, and then yeah, timely, human, and delivered in the right way. Yeah.
love it, love it.
We've talked about the declines, which is really important. What are your thoughts about, because sometimes in a recruitment process, you send off your CV and it goes off to the abyss, and you might get, "Oh, we've received it, thank you." But
Mm.
what about those moments? We're still reviewing applications. This is going to run for the next 7 days. What about those in between the process?
Yeah, yeah. Look, this is a hard one, right? Because I think from an in-house perspective and looking out and looking at what my team does is we send out those. Hey, we know that this has typically taken a little bit longer than what we expected. Please bear with us. I think if you take that as at face value,
Hmm.
they're keeping me informed. Okay, they're keeping me informed. It might be two or three times I've received the same. What's actually going on?
Hmm.
And all it takes is for someone, for that little seed, that seed of doubt to be planted to go, oh, actually, what is going on here? It's been quite a while.
Mm,
What is this?
mm.
And that's when you start to lose a candidate through that process. And so if
Hmm.
you know that, it might be, again, I'm going to say it, pick up the phone, have
Yeah,
a
yeah,
chat. Hey, look, I am so incredibly sorry. Look, we're being really truthful with the comms that we're sending through. Bear with us.
yeah,
We will be in touch. So I
Hmm.
think if it comes from a good place, and then as the candidate, unfortunately, you'll never know. You'll never know,
Yeah.
is it coming from a good place or isn't it? I would
mm,
err on the side of it is. There is, as long as they look at it this way, they're keeping you updated, right? That's better than some.
absolutely.
As I'm listening to this, what I'm also clocking in is in this world of, and I know we talk a lot about this whole, is it time to go back to this old school way of doing things? And you referred to that
Mm,
earlier. And it's the more that we get into email and social media and text messaging, it feels like the phone call is now becoming the holy grail
niche.
almost. Like it's the
Yeah.
prize. Oh my God, I got a phone call. It has more status nowadays
Mm.
than all the other things I mentioned.
I don't know why it's such a big deal. Maybe it's my demographic. I don't know. Maybe it's my generation. But it's I personally would prefer to pick up the phone and have some get some. Maybe this is just really outside of the box. Stand up and walk 5 meters and go and have a chat with Richard or Susie. I know that's
Yeah.
quite radical,
Yeah.
but maybe that's actually the right thing to do.
Yeah.
Mm.
Maybe what it actually needs, and I'm just spitballing here, and in fact I'm going to make a note of this, is in the application process, you have a box.
Yeah.
How would you like to be communicated to? Do you
There
want
you
text
go.
message? Do you want email? Do you want a phone call?
Yeah.
Like, what would you like? And we'll respond to you in that manner.
Yeah.
Maybe that's, in fact, I'm actually going to literally write that down
Yeah.
because that's a
I
good
think you
short
should. Yeah.
version. So, yeah, cool.
That is the very definition of creating experiences, right?
Yeah.
Asking me
Yeah. How would you
what I
like to be
want.
communicated with?
Yeah.
I
We'll
love
do
that.
that. Yeah. And ATSs are getting pretty crafty now. I know ours does that. Ours has that ability to be able to text or email or both. Yeah.
Love
Yeah.
it.
Oh, there you go.
Awesome.
This has been an awesome chat. Before we wrap up, as a recruitment professional that's been experimenting with creating good experiences and incorporating AI, what are some tips that you would want to offer others that are looking to start on this journey, whether it's creating a better experience or using AI in their work?
Yeah. Okay. This is quite hard to answer, so I'm going to try and do the best that I possibly can.
I feel like I've
Um,
been asking hard questions today.
yeah. I'm actually just really sweating. I'm like, really? No. No, this has been awesome. Probably the number one would be is what do you want the experience to look and feel like?
Mm.
Everyone,
Mm.
or your recruiters
Mm,
in-house, or how you partner with outside agencies. It could be how you partner with your hiring manager. What do you want it? What does that look and feel like for your candidates? Who are
mm,
your candidates? So that probably leads me on to my next one. So the first one to clarify is what do you want the experience to look and feel like? The next one is you need to collect some data. You need to actually go, what do my hiring managers want from me? What does that look like? And
Mm.
you have to be prepared for some pretty honest feedback. So you have to be okay with that. And what do candidates want?
mm,
Go and have a talk with another company. That might be at a different, if you're in a private sector organization, you might not want to go and talk to a competitor, but go and have a chat with somebody else. And then the last one is technology. Actually see if you have a CIO within your company and you have a technology roadmap, go and have a chat with that person. See what is doable. Do we have an AI policy? What does that look and feel like? What can and we cannot do with that? Because that might then go, we could do all of these wonderful experiences, but if your organization cannot or will not have AI, then you're going to have to think differently around that. So that might be part of that, that might form your number one is actually, what is my technology roadmap? What is that? So go and have a chat with your CIO. But back to my first point around what do you want the experience to look and feel like is I think there is a possibility, and maybe I'm doing a bit of a plug here, but pick up the phone and have a chat with a design thinker institute. But maybe have a conversation with you guys
Yeah.
around this is the problem that we've got. How do we design this from a really human-centered design perspective?
Yeah.
mm.
Challenge that narrative, challenge that norm. The
Yeah.
human, the experience, gather your data, see what your technology roadmap is, and try and build something in there. That would be my three pieces of advice.
I love it, Tim. And just in the same way that we didn't ask you to plug us. We haven't. I promise listeners we haven't rehearsed this. But Tim, you're a designer. You're a design thinker. You probably knew that already. But starting with the end in mind, what is the experience we want to actually create? That's the best place to start by understanding and then gathering some data to tell us what is actually
Mm,
happening at the moment. And then, yeah, taking into account some constraints, because design loves a good constraint, and understanding what the technology current state and roadmap is super important. You might discover that some of your problems would ideally be solved by technology, in this case AI, in the future. But in the meantime, what's the kind of Wizard of Oz solution that looks the same to the person using it, but might have a bit of human auto magic in the background? Yeah,
Yeah,
lovely. Thank you, Tim.
cool. No worries.
Great
What I
summary,
also
great
love
tips.
about
I hope our listeners take those on board because they're absolutely awesome recommendations. Thank you. Go on, Danny.
No
Danny.
worries.
Same, just echoing that. What I also love about that is sometimes when we talk about experience, it's organizations love to compartmentalize things and it's,
Mm,
oh, the experience people are here and the tech people are over
mm,
here and the data people
Yeah,
are over here. And actually, to create good things, it's actually bringing those things together. I really value the tips that you gave because it's actually how do we think about bringing those things together and not
yeah,
working in isolation of them?
yeah, yeah. Love it.
if I can part with this,
Yeah,
when I started with my team on this journey,
yeah,
we went from, and this is going to be a little bit of some raw data here, a 71-day time to hire. So time to fill is different. So that's
yeah,
from when the hiring manager goes hi through to filled. Time to hire is shorter. So
yeah,
it is from when you go out to market and to classes filled.
yeah,
So that time frame,
yeah,
71 days. Currently, we're at 31, and we've got other improvements that we've got up our sleeve that are going to make that even better. And that's across the board. Like
yeah.
that's not bad.
Cap
That's
high to you and your
awesome.
team, Tim.
Mhm.
Thankfully, I work with some absolutely exceptional people.
Yeah,
Yeah,
awesome.
That is
So,
an incredible statistic and such a great way to wrap up. One thing we do need to do better as human-centered designers is actually show the proof points
mm,
of when we design in a human-centered way, we get better outcomes because sometimes this work gets dismissed because we as a profession haven't done a good job of highlighting actually these are the outcomes it can deliver.
mm, yeah,
yeah, yeah,
wins
yeah.
all round.
Mm.
Hard out. Cool.
Tim, thank you. This is an episode filled with such wisdom. So, we always end our episodes with everyone sharing one thing they're taking away from this conversation. And as our guest, you get to go first.
I am definitely going to take away that point that led to how do you want to be communicated to?
Mm,
And I'm going to see if I can build that into the application stage of our experience pretty quickly because yeah, that's good. That's my golden nugget for sure.
love it. Thanks, Tim. It's always delightful to us when these things emerge during the conversation, ideas that can actually be enacted. So,
Yeah.
looking forward to hearing about that. I spoke there, Danny. Do you want me to go next and you can go last? It has to be, hopefully, this isn't too much of a surprise to you, Tim, but it has to be if in doubt, pick up the phone.
Love it.
If in
Love
doubt,
that.
pick up the phone. That's what I'm going to, even though, as Danny knows, that is well out of my comfort zone. A phone call is as an introverted person, not my first channel of communication, but I will take your advice and make it more. Thank you, Tim.
All right.
So, I'm taking two things away. I'm going to cheat here a little
Cheater.
bit. One thing, and this will make my husband so happy, Tim. So he is a pick up the damn phone and make the phone call person. And I am not. And what I'm taking away from this conversation is I just need to pick up the phone. So that I'm sure. And I'll make sure that Greg at least listens to this part of the episode so he'll know that he'll have to reach out to you and thank you.
Good.
And the second thing I'm taking away is, and this is something that I've been thinking about for a while now, and as I'm having more conversations about the role of AI, that's starting to become more and more clear to me is that with AI coming in, the more that we're going to be using AI, the bigger the need for humanness is going to be. And
Yeah.
perhaps we've been looking at AI in the wrong way. And perhaps what we need to do is think about AI is in terms of how will AI help me do the more human elements of my job better.
Hmm, hmm.
100%. Yeah. Yeah,
Okay. Thank you.
absolutely.
Nice, Danny.
Cool.
Awesome. Tim, thank you so much for making time to come chat with us today. This has been absolutely brilliant, and I'm sure our listeners will really enjoy it.
Yeah, thanks, Tim.
Fingers crossed. Thanks very much, everyone. Ka kite.